The next thing you want to do is you want to grab your yarn. First thing you want to do is find the end. With this, since I have self-wrapped the yarn, it makes it really easy to find. It is wrapped in one long strand like this. So I leave an end so that you can find where it is, which is right here. And take your scissors and just snip that end. It doesn't really matter which end you snip. You can work your way from either side. So now that I found my end, I'm just pulling it here like so. Okay, so once you have found your end, what you're going to do here is you're going to take and you need to make a knot first. So go ahead and I fold in half like this. Just make a loop and you're going to just tie a knot. And you want this knot to be fairly small because you do need to fit 2 needles through it, but you don't want it to be too loose that they're sliding out. So just tie a knot and make sure that it's nice and tight. And pull, and your knot should look like this once it's done. So now that we have our knot, what you're going to do is you're going to take your needles just like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to slip this knot right onto your left needle, just like so. And what I do is I always use my tail as a reference. So this little tiny piece is your tail, and this is what's connected to the rest of the yarn. So I make sure that this is kind of behind and you have the piece that's the longest in the front. So you're going to take your right needle and slip it through. That way, both of the needles are now in the knot. As you can see, both of them are in the knot. And you're going to take your yarn, you're going to wrap around just like this. So now the yarn is coming between these 2 needles. It's behind your first needle and in front of your second. And what you're going to do is you're going to push, use your left finger to push. And as you slowly drag this through, you're going to drag that loop through just like that. And this is how you're going to cast on your stitches. So you have this loop here and you're going to do the same thing. So now you're going to bring your left needle underneath into the loop just like this. And now you still have both needles in. Again, you just take this yarn and you're going to wrap it through both of the needles. So it's coming right in between like that. And you use your right hand needle to pull. You'll see, there it is. You're just going to pull it through that other loop. My stitches, and I'm going to now add on. So this is how you knit onto the stitches that you just casted on. So here's your first stitch. If you just push them up a little bit, you can see each stitch. You're going to insert your needle again. Make sure that your loop, if you need to, just grab it. That way it's at the top. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to wrap your needle in between those 2 stitches, and you're going to pull the stitch through. That's it. And once you pull this stitch through, you can slide it off the needle. So just make sure just to slide off the one that you just had your needle in. So then now you see it does get easier. You can stick your needle in between that loop, wrap your yarn around, and push your needle through and make sure that you're bringing the yarn through. Then slide that off your needle. So in, wrap around, push through, make sure the loop is coming through with that other needle. And now, see, you've transferred those 3 stitches onto here. Okay, now you've reached the end of your row, and you're just going to finish this one off like you did before. Okay, so now that you have that one row done, what I'm going to do is we're going to add a second stitch here. So you're going to knit just like you did before. So knit those first 2, wrap around, pull through, go into the front, wrap around and pull through. And then this time we're going to do a purl. So the only difference with purl is you're wrapping your yarn to the front of your needle, and then you are going to go in through the back of the loop instead of the front. So wrap it around, and then you're pulling your yarn towards the back. So in through the back, wrap your yarn around, and then pull backwards. And then to go back to the knit, you're going to take and swing your yarn to the opposite side. So now your yarn's facing the back. You're going to stick your needle in through the front, wrap around, and pull forward. So needle in, wrap around, pull forward. Then wrap your yarn to the front again. You're going to pull your yarn this time through the back to purl. And then once more. Okay, so you're coming to the end of this row here. And you're just going to continue to purl and knit all the way across. And right now you might not be able to recognize the difference, but after this row it will be very clear to see which is which. So if you look really closely, you can see that there are some straight edge stitches and there are some stitches that have a halo. So these straight edge stitches and the ones with the halo are the purl, and then straight edge is knit. So the halo and then straight edge. So you can see which one is which. So if it looks like it has a little tiny popcorn on the top, then that is your purl. Like these, those are your purl. And then if it is smooth and straight and there's nothing on the top, that's your knit. So these first two, you can look at them and you can see, okay, they don't have the two popcorns at the top, which means they are a regular knit. So you're just going to knit your first two stitches. And then the two stitches after them do have the popcorn. So those are purled. You're going to purl those next two stitches. Where you created on the last row at the same space. So since these two are knits, you're going to go in the front, just like you do if you knit. And you're going to wrap it around and you're going to knit. You're going to make sure that you're going in the front, wrapping around and knitting. And then since these are purls, you're going to wrap your string around again. And now you're going into the back of the loop. You're going to purl. So wrap your yarn around and pull it through. Wrap your yarn around. It's always going in the back and pull through. We're going back to knit because see, these two are knits. They're flat. And then you're going to pull it through. So you're going to go back into the front of your stitch. If you can't pick up your stitches, sometimes it is a little bit difficult. Take your two fingers and just grab it so you can pick it up. So you go in the front and you're in a knit. You're just knitting. That's it. And then you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to wrap it around again. Wrap it around to the front because these are purls. See the two little tiny beads here? Those are your purls. And you're going to purl. So into the back round, over the back round, pull back. You're going to so knit to the side. You're going to purl. Okay, so in your bag, this tiny little bag that was in your box, you'll see some things here. It came with 4 stitch markers and 2 stoppers. So just pop those out. These 2 are your stoppers, so you can sit them there, and these 4 are your stitch markers. So I went ahead and I knitted a little bit more just so you're able to see a little bit better, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's what we have now when you continuously knit on the knit and you purl on the purl. So once you start to get a little bit added on there, things will start to look a lot more fusible. It's just those first couple rows are kind of hard to see. So you can see these 2 rows here are knit, and the purls are a little more sunken in right there. So you can see the purl looks like that, and it looks like that. So almost if you have a sweater, you see this pattern really often. It's on the ridge of your sleeve, and this is just knit 2, purl 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to add on your stitch markers for larger projects. So what you're going to do here is you're going to continue with your knit 2, purl 2. And for larger projects, sometimes you'll have 300, 400 stitches on your needle. And that can get a little tricky and also be a little hard to tell where you are. So your stitch markers help you to know where your placement is. So what I did is here, you can see I have 2, 4, 6 stitches. I'm just going to take one of my stitch markers and I'm going to slide it onto my needle, just like that. And then I'm going to go back and continue on the rest of my row. And if you want to do every 2 stitches, every 4 stitches, it's up to you. However you want to count here, you can. There's no right or wrong. So I did another 6 stitches, and I'm going to take another one, and I'm going to pop it on there. Continue on my row. And then I'm going to add another one. Pop that one on there like that. Now see, right here you can see they move very easily. So don't think, oh no, we're putting them on and they're going to be knitted or purled.
Okay, so now that you have the basic idea of how to put your stitch markers on, I'm going to show you just how your stitch markers are going to move along with you while you're knitting on your project. So I'm going to fast forward this and speed this up so you can see how they move. So there they are, and then just knit along like you would normally, and they're just going to move right along with you. Can be fairly long, and say your hands get tired or you just want to stop in the middle of your row and you don't want to lose your stitches, there is 2 plastic stoppers that are green that came in your box. So when you want to stop, all you have to do is just find your place that you want to stop. Doesn't really matter where. You can stop in the very middle of the row, and that's perfectly fine, which is what I'm going to do here just to show you how this works. And then you're going to take your stoppers, because as you see, your stitches are fairly loose, and because you're using needles that are smooth, if you do go ahead and stop in the middle, they can slide off, which you don't want. So go ahead and just take your stoppers and put them on each end. This keeps you from losing any of your stitches, and that's it. Show you how to cast off. This is just how you would end your piece once you are finished. So what you're going to do here is you're going to make sure that you still have your needle in your right hand. You're going to go through that first loop. You're going to knit it, wrap the yarn around like so. And then you're also going to grab the second loop there. You're going to knit that one as well. And then you are going to take your left needle and you're going to stick it through the first loop that you just knitted. And you're going to take that loop and you're going to pull it over the second loop that you made. So you pull it over and it creates one. You're going to do the same thing, knit one, take the second loop, pull it over, and makes one. Knit into the second loop, take your left needle, insert it into the first loop, pull it over the second, and continue. You're going to do this all the way across until you reach the very end. Okay, now that we have gotten to the end here, we're going to take our last loop, we're going to pull it over to make one again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut a tail here. Don't want to cut it too short because you will need this. So then you're going to take that loop that is still on your needle and you're going to pull it out just a little bit, just big enough so that your fingers can fit through. You're going to make like a peace sign. And then take and pull that tail that you just made through that loop. And that secures it off. And that's it. You are done. You now learned the basics of knitting.